This entire thing is my fault. I made this occurrence from you about me. And what I realized in that moment, which is why if you can constructively fight, that was a beautiful thing for us, was to be able to stop mid-fight and go, hold on, we'll fight in a second. This is awesome. I just realized something detrimental that I want to fix quickly. Do not hold a grudge against your spouse for something that you cannot articulate.
Yeah.
That to me is, I will look at somebody and say, I got to stop you right there. We talked to an awesome person who was like, I want more intimacy from my spouse. And I said, got it. What do you mean? Well, intimacy. I don't know what you mean. Do you know how many people have a definition of intimacy? So describe for me what you need from this man that he's not giving you. Well, I don't know. Okay, well, you might want to rethink holding that against him, because either there's a you thing going on, or you need to work really hard at articulating to hold a man accountable for something he's not even remotely aware of. Even though if you think he should or shouldn't, that's a different combo. You got to be able to articulate it. That's really not on him in that moment. That's on you. And you have had to grow in this, because you don't love to articulate.
Don't point your finger at me.
Well, you don't love to articulate your needs.
No, I don't.
And I have expressed that one of my needs is to hear your need.
I've had to work really hard at that. And that was part of me coming out of being in the relationship that we were before. And my codependent self, let's just make it work, keep the peace, because, the kids and him and people and church and all of those things, it was just so much for me to carry. And so I've had to learn to really express if I'm feeling a certain way, or just the littlest things, like the other day, hey, can you do this for me?
Yeah.
I just have to be very clear, whereas I never used to do that. I would just bang dishes around in the kitchen or something instead.
Fabric by Gerber Life. It's life-term insurance you can get done right from your couch, all online, all on your schedule, and you could be covered in under 10 minutes with no health exam required. So if you've got kids, especially if you're young and healthy, the time to lock that low rate is right now. And trust me, it's a beautiful low rate to lock in. So even if you have life insurance through your employer, it might not offer enough protection for your family, and you might not even be able to follow if you leave your job. So Fabric has flexible, high-quality policies that fit your family and your budget, like $1 million in coverage for less than $1 a day. That's a lot of coverage. So Fabric has partnered with Gerber Life, trusted by millions of families like yours for over 50 years. So there's no risk, 30-day money-back guarantee, and you can cancel it at any time. So they have over 1,900 five-star reviews on Trustpilot with ratings of excellent, and stuff matters to people. And Fabric was designed for busy parents like you, like us, and it's way more than life insurance. So free digital wills, access to investment accounts to invest for your kid's future, and more. So you can manage it all right from your phone, which Laura Lentz loves. So join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to help protect their family. Apply today in just minutes at meetfabric.com/lightson. That's meetfabric.com/lightson. MEET fabric.com/lightson. Policies issued by Western Southern Life Assurance Company, not available in certain states. Prices subject to underwriting and health questions. Lights on.
You don't have to go down to the mic every time.
Hi, everybody. We love you. Thank you for checking out this episode wherever you are, in your car, on YouTube, etc. Laura Lentz.
Hello.
We happen to be in Atlanta, Georgia.
Yes.
And it's awesome. And I've already hit my face twice on this mic because this is great equipment. So I'm getting used to mic placement. Huge shout out to all the people that keep giving me great feedback about speaking directly into the mic. So hey, we're podcast veterans now. It's been a couple months, Yeah. How are you feeling? You look fantastic. I love you.
Love you. I'm pretty good.
Anything you need to get off your chest?
I don't think so. I think I'm good.
Yeah, and we're gonna get into it. I've loved this pod, and the number one piece of feedback that we ever get is Laura needs to be at every pod. I don't disagree. And moving forward, we're going to continue
We might do some more.
But it's always been your availability.
Well, yeah, but also people, I think, like hearing from both of us.
Yeah.
especially because of the conversations that we do have in here. But
yeah, we're gonna do today. This is fun. I mean, we haven't had a good shot at some Q&A in a while. We've just had a lot going on. It's been a lot of fun. It's been great. And with this pod, I think my favorite thing, I just want to thank everybody who has given us feedback and encouragement. I see people multiple times a day who always stop and say the same thing and say, sorry to stop you or whatever, but I'm always like, there's no but. It's the highlight of our life right now to be able to hear from people that have been impacted by anything that we're doing. And it reminds me that there's a lot of people in this boat here of, being married to somebody that you love. And it's just not easy all the time. And so I think we perhaps for some embody the reality that marriage is awesome. It can be awesome. It can be hard. And we're just kind of doing our best to be honest and real about that. I was thinking today when I woke up that whatever you water, it absolutely grows. Like I think we wake up every day and we realize we have the opportunity to make this what we want it to be. And we still live off of a piece of wisdom we heard early. A couple of people have said it. Esther Perel, who's an awesome voice on marriage. She has that concept of if you've been through trying times, so everybody in the congregation can lift your hand if you've been through a trying time or two, especially including some of the breaks of trust that we've had. Don't try to rebuild that thing.
right,
Go with marriage number 2.
marriage
So
number 2.
I would concur
2.0.
that that's been a lot of fun. It's been fun to see that develop, and it's a lot easier to frame for me just to go, we're starting fresh.
Yeah.
We're having fun. Let's go to some questions. I think somebody asked me recently, what's one of the most effective things you've done as a husband? And I mean, the list is long and extensive, let me tell you.
It's
okay?
real long.
You don't need to lean in for stuff like that
I know, but
either.
that just means
But I did
it's
something.
more
I did
important.
something the other day that I feel like I've tried before, and I really leaned into it this time. And I told you ahead of time. I said, "Look, I'm not going to always tell you some of the stuff that I'm trying. I'm just going to see if there's an impact." And one of the things I tried was I tried to go for a week without complaining or giving any pushback for anything. And my thought was, when I do this, it's going to reveal a lot to me. And it was one of the best weeks. And here's what I found, okay? And so for those watching at home and keeping tabs, if you're a husband like me, you're trying to get better, the idea is just to take a break for a week from any remote criticism, or we like to call it pushback, feedback towards your spouse, and just see what it does. Because number one, it reveals just how common your criticism might be, and you're not
And
aware.
I think we've figured out who's more complaining and
I'm
critical.
going to get there. I'm going to get to the beautiful silver lining. It reveals your default, because it's kind of like when people fast food, they don't really realize how much they love food until they can't have it for 4 hours. And that's what it's like when you do something like this, because you realize, I didn't realize kind of some of the culture of our own marriage. But what I found was this. So I totally recommend this opportunity. And it's worked before, but this time it really worked. It shows you who you really are, what your rhythm is. So for me, here's what it developed in me. It showed me I'm way more critical than I think by default. And it showed me that there's a lot of opportunity for me to do more things. And I was like, most of the time when I would lean in for a criticism or even a question, I realized not only that, another level was I don't want to have a business association with you. And unless it's intentional, that's what it becomes. So it's not even critical, but it's stuff like this. Hey, are you going to get that done? Hey, you'll say back, are you going to get this done? Hey, make sure you pick up this child, or make sure you do this. And so we give each other orders on the fly.
Right.
And then you stop and you go, that's a pretty crappy way to be communicating all the time. It's not even intentional. You're not trying to do anything but live your life. I'm not trying to do anything but live mine. And so it's a normal marriage interaction. But what I noticed was, even though it wasn't critical, it felt like that. So I had to even change the way that I did that. So over the course of a week, that became 2 weeks, and it became 3 weeks. And I think what began as an experiment for me has become a new template for how I'd like to live and treat you, which is just, if I do more and I'm kinder and I'm more proactive, man, there's not a lot of tension on my end. And the beautiful part, all you husbands out there, it showed how much my wife complains because there was room on the tape for somebody else's voice to be on it. And I have been able to use it as a weapon. I've been able to condemn you with it. I've been able to hold you accountable with it. But it's
it is really annoying, though.
It's awesome, yeah, because I have had to find new ways to communicate, and you're just over there doing what you do. And it's like, hey, cynical Sally, complaining Kathy.
I haven't overcome that part of my journey of healing and wholeness.
It is really human. It's not like the worst thing in the world.
It's pretty bad, though.
If I'm focused on not complaining, it forces you to either lift your level or allow me to continually berate you for your lack of lifting the level, which is a great part of the way that we keep each other honest with that. But it's a good help. So I get some really humble, cool dads who are asking questions like that. Try it for a week and just see how you go. So the decision is let's go 5 days. I'm not going to complain or criticize my spouse for an entire week. Just see how it goes. Write down what occurs to you. Write down what you see. And for me, my own experience that showed me how incredible you are, how much you do, to the point it led me into a very heated discussion with Roman, who isn't on my page with lack of complaining. He actually lives to complain right now. Anybody else have a 15-year-old?
15-year-old.
I think when you're 15, you wake up, you're like, what can I possibly complain about? Let me double down.
Right.
But Roman was like, Mom, how are there no goldfish? And I'm like, bro, there's a lot of other stuff in there other than goldfish. And he goes, yeah, but she knows I love goldfish. And I said, can you imagine what it's like for your mom to have the wherewithal to know what everyone in this house likes for their particular snack? Well, she's amazing. And then me and Roman started talking about it. I'm like, we can't even go to Target for ourselves, me and Roman, to get what we want and leave with all the right items.
Correct.
But you'll go shop for our family and know Ava's weird idiosyncrasy with some certain type of milk. Charlie likes this kind of Taki, not that kind, Mom, this kind.
I've banned her from those.
I have detailed order or two. Fair. And then Roman, God knows where that boy's weird appetite palate has come from. But my point to Roman was, bro, if you want better groceries, give your mom a list. Go to the store with her. Go get it yourself. Do anything but just complain about it. And it revealed to me yet again that, as many people will constantly point out, your wife is awesome and she's a superhero and all that stuff is very true. But all that came from my decision to make a choice for a week to not criticize you. And there's not a lot to criticize about you anyway, but that's what you find out. You're like, I would never think I'm critical of you. And then when I started to bring it out, I'm like, oh. So how did it feel on the other side of not being criticized or be given, feedback?
It actually, I didn't notice it at first, but then I noticed how much I was complaining about things.
Yeah.
And
awful.
It definitely brought a new awakening for myself. But it was freeing not being like, not under the thumb. You've never been like that, but just like everyone on top of me about something.
Yeah.
And just being able to be like, oh, yep, I forgot that today. Oh, well, like I'll go to the store tomorrow or whatever it was. Like, that's just one example. But yeah, it is definitely, it changes how you present yourself and how you feel every day when you know that there's nothing coming at you.
You're not in front of the jury every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's really beautiful.
I think it's a good way to live. I found also that the more critical I am going out, it's a direct reflection of the criticism about me that nobody can see.
Right.
So technically, when you see someone who's a constant complainer in any field, they're complaining about themselves to themselves first, and it's an overflow. So I've been around people where they don't even realize it, but it's like wherever you go, the first thing's a complaint. Like you go to an NBA game, it's like, man, these seats are close together. Seats are close together, bro. We can see the players. It's just it's an interesting catch to think, is my first lean in about life or about anything, is it grateful or is it complaining? So it's a good metric.
Well, I think for me too, I've had a hard couple of months, like frustrations in my own life, trying to figure out what I'm doing, where I'm going, like just some life decisions. And it has come out in my attitude. And that's an occurrence that I've had of like, oh, wow, I have to get my ish together here because I'm like pouring it out on everyone else and it's no one else's problem. It's mine. I have to double down and like figure out what am I doing and why do I feel like
this? It's been a good exercise for me to let you be human. And what we found out, I don't know if we talked about that fight, the best fight we've gotten into in the past month led to a beautiful occurrence of freedom. So I'll fill in our amazing crew that listens. Shout out to everybody that's a part of the Lights On thing. I wish there was a catchier name for like the Lights Out crew or like the Lights
like how
Out
people
something. They have like those corny names, but they
like
work.
the armcherries.
Yeah, the armcherries.
Yeah, those are cute.
You know, we need something.
Light bulb, the bulbies.
I'm a light bulb. That would be weird. But if anybody has any bright ideas, and even Matt, who's helping us produce today, at any point in time, if you have a great idea for what we can call our community, right now it's like all the people that check out Lights On. That needs to be catchier. I'm a marketing guru. Okay, it's not good enough. So we got into an argument and went like this. Basically, it started with you. Just sharing a really beautiful thought, which was, I won't get into details, but it was just like, I'm ready to have friends again. I'm ready for some sort of a social life. And for those of you who are just checking out our pod for the first time, we had a really interesting life that's vastly different than the one we have now. And it was filled with a lot of activity. We went through a season where we didn't even want to talk to human beings ever. And we just wanted to get to know each other. And then it's led to you saying, you know, I think I'm ready for that. And that was beautiful. And then you started to describe some things that had hurt you. And before I could even let you finish sentences, I had, without really realizing it, I had clicked into fix it, defend it, make sense of it. And it was an avalanche. And so I went from listening to you going, no, that didn't happen. No, they didn't mean that. No, and then you looked at me and I said, hold on, stop. Because you looked at me and you go, are you going to treat me differently than everyone else that you listen so intently to?
Yeah, coach.
I thought.
You're coaching everyone else.
I am a professional listener, and I do love to hear what people have to say. But with you, I realized, I went in, and you said, are you not going to give me a chance to even share my thoughts without, you know, making me feel like some sort of feedback is coming? I said, no, it's even better, Laura. This entire thing is my fault. I made this occurrence from you about me. And what I realized in that moment, which is why if you can constructively fight, that was a beautiful thing for us, was to be able to stop mid-fight and go, hold on, we'll fight in a second. This is awesome. I just realized something detrimental that I want to fix quickly. But when it comes to you, if you're uncomfortable, if you're sad, and if you're hurt, it triggers wild shame in me and frustration and anger. And then I go into overkill. And because that doesn't happen a lot, I don't have to face that every day. And that was one of the first times I realized that's still a part of me that I have to intentionally pour water into to see it grow, because it's my fault my wife's lonely. It's my fault that she can't find A, B, and C. It's my fault that this stuff may or may not have validity, but the point is these are your feelings. You're capable of handling them and communicating. It's not my job to make, all these wrongs right in any particular time frame, and you're capable of it. So it was just a huge light bulb moment to look at you and just say, my fault, your feelings sparked me to go back to the lab for one area.
You go back into codependent.
Right away.
You want to make sure that so you feel good.
So I feel better.
So you feel better.
You really don't care about your need right now.
100%.
I feel bad, so let me fix what's going on with me. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think a lot of relationships, a lot of fights happen because of that.
Yeah. Because
I think you're so full of shame or whatever that feeling is that you're or just the fact that your spouse has a feeling that's negative.
How did I get on your radar about feelings about you?
Right.
How selfish do I need to be in that moment to hear you express a thought, somehow turn it into my thing, and I'm defending myself and you never even said anything about me. So I love that. I love that constructive outcome. It's easy to talk to you, but I think that we've always left fights like that or confrontations like that going, kind of glad we had it, which is a good conflict rhythm. Mm-hmm. Do you agree?
Yes.
Did you want to say more about it?
Well, I wasn't sure if you wanted to talk about even the disappointment week that we had.
Oh, yeah.
Of a whole bunch of stuff that went, like, you know how they say
we'll
things happen in threes?
I want to go down there.
Right.
But yeah,
I was
think
talking about your nervous
big
system.
It was a big one I wanted to give people a real-time occurrence about because it's interesting for you to check what's going on in you when your beloved spouse or whoever's in your life that's significant, when they're communicating about them, how quickly does it become about you? And then you start noticing it in other people where you're trying to tell them something and they take any information you give, they turn it into something about them, and it just becomes frustrating quickly.
Well, you can do it with your kids as well.
Yes.
Parents do it all the time.
Yeah.
And instead of listening to your kid and validating their feelings and what they're going through.
Yes, sorry, go ahead. I just cut you off.
No, the things that they're going through, we make it about us.
Yeah.
And turn it on them, make them feel bad because they're having feelings. And I think it's really something that parents need to work on, because I think it's been done for a really long time, generations of people. And I think it's about time that parents start working on that part.
It's hard to do.
It's really hard.
And I relate to a lot of it because I used to do it all the time. And I still have to consciously check. So I'll give you an example. If your kid says to you, I'm lonely, my honest response before I really started digging into myself would be something along the lines of maybe this: you're not lonely. You have plenty of friends.
Right. What are you talking
man.
about?
You don't know you're so
yeah.
cool. You're so loved. You're the raddest. People want to be around you. You're not lonely.
Which sounds like a good thing to say
it's
to a
not
kid.
only not good, it's wrong.
Right. But we think that, well, what else do you say?
That's my job as a parent.
I'm a parent. I'm encouraging my kid.
I got to speak life into them. I got to stop people from saying speaking life. It's such a funny thing to say. It's a Christian thing to say. It's so corn cheese ball. It's a giant ball of corn. I'm going to speak life into you. What do you mean? But another response would be, Dad, I'm lonely. And I would say something like, well, you know what, man? I'm doing the best I can. What?
Yeah, why is this
How does
about
the 46-year-old insert himself into the 15-year-old narrative? Or, Dad, I'm having a tough time in college, and I don't know if I can finish this semester because of A, B, and C. Immediately becomes about me if I don't catch it. So now I have made a dedication as a dad, which is my favorite thing to do. Like, it's never too late to get better as a dad, as a man, as a husband. Like, if you give up, you give up. But if you keep going, you keep trying, you find out some really beautiful things. And for me, that's learning how to just accept what your kids say and be secure enough to know,
that's
you know
the
what,
thing.
man? Even if I am part of the reason, let's take something like being out of place, which all three of our kids at some point have said. Well, guess what happens when you move 4 times in 2 years?
Right.
Going to be out of place. Why did we move 4 times in 2 years? Because I made decisions that hurt. Don't point at me. If you're listening audibly, Laura's pointing at me. Why did we move? Because of my decisions that had really hard consequences for them. In that moment as a dad, I've got to check myself at the door and go, hey, this is going to be their journey, and I can't protect them from it. Right. And led us all the way back to my therapist, Alex, who told me early on, quit trying to shield your kids from pain. Quit trying to stop your children from suffering. Teach them how to suffer well. And I remember saying, they're suffering enough. And she said, help them suffer well. And if you do, you will create resilience in your kids that will turn them into adults that impact this world. And I remember her saying that, and it's so freaking true. Like
Dr. Amen says the same thing.
Yeah.
He says that parents these days, we don't want our kids to hurt or suffer, and we do way too much for them. And I see it all the time with parents. We do way too much for our kids.
Yeah, we do.
And it teaches them nothing about the real world.
And I love, like, in its trigger, it's a trigger instinct. So I feel like we're doing an awesome job as parents, and there's so many cool areas to grow in. But my quick occurrence is still, especially with my girls, which is different. Like the way I feel about Roman in some of those moments is different than I feel about Ava and Charlie. But I think, Ava hit me the other day. She has a problem at school. My first reaction was find the professor's number. That's where I went first.
She's 20,
I cut
almost
her off.
21.
I said, give me the professor's home phone number. I'll call him tonight. And I realized I'm not sure that's the most resourceful thing for her future. So I gave her a couple options on what she could do, what she could say. And it's not as much fun. It's so much more fun to, try
Be
to
more involved.
Yeah, just to try to handle everything. That makes me feel better.
Correct.
Leaves her incomplete. So again, I think a lot of being a parent, on top of everything else you have to do that's selfless, even in those moments, you have to check yourself at the door and say, am I making this about me? Maybe that's a phenomenal question to ask for every parent that wants a better relationship with their kids. When you're in a conflict with your child, it's worth it to check, where might this be a moment where I'm making this about me? And there's some freedom in there, for sure.
Yep. 100%.
I don't even know how we got there, but I'm happy we did. Question from an amazing person. How did we not slide into contempt for each other? Great question. Contempt is our favorite thing to see in other couples.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
It's like watching a soap opera.
What does contempt mean
contempt
first?
for this frame, if you're listening today. So I think the best way I can explain contempt, it's a feeling of disdain, resentment, and has a tinge of superiority to it. I'm better than you. You're not worthy of me. That's where it becomes. So it starts with disdain. I can't stand you.
The disdain
And then
is the
resentment.
thing
Not
you
only
see.
can I not stand you, I'm keeping track.
Yeah.
And then from keeping track, it goes to, you're actually not a good person. I'm better than you. And the way it looks in real time is that wife who just sits there with that look, and the husband's talking, having a great time, and you look to the left and you see this wife can't hide it for a second. They think they're hiding it.
Right.
But when you're around a couple that has contempt in the relationship, just know everybody knows. So if you are contemptuous with your spouse and you're wondering if people know, friendly wake-up call, everybody knows. Everybody knows that you can't stand your spouse. And it's deadly. It's deadly for kids. It's deadly for a household culture, because what it leads to is a whole lot of little things that you look over, and then it turns into something giant. Speak to contempt because it's your favorite thing.
Yeah, I don't love seeing it because it just makes me sad.
I think by love, let me just interrupt you one time real
Not
quick.
love.
No. You love to help that area.
Yeah.
Like when you see it, you know exactly what to offer people to help. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's just sad to see, because it's like you don't have to have that feeling, and it shows that there's not a lot of communication, real honest communication going on.
Right.
Because do you think you can get through contempt, like get rid of contemptness?
Yes.
Is that a word?
You can use contemptuous if you want
Contemptuous?
to remove contempt from the culture of a marriage. I know it's possible because we have, and we've seen other people do it. But I think a possible antidote for contempt would, for me, and an easy way to frame it is contempt is like a really long laundry list of wrongs that you're
you
not
just keep racking them
speaking
up.
about. It's like an accumulation of resentment. So if you're listening, trying to think, if you deal with this in your relationship, are there things that you resent about your significant person that you haven't brought up? You are preparing for contempt. And contempt is what most marriage experts would say, it's the death nail for any marriage coffin. Is typically when you have contempt, some would say it's too far gone. We don't believe that. Nobody's too far gone. There's no marriage that's too far gone if two people want to fight and make it work. But our answer for contempt is to keep really short accounts.
Yeah.
That's our favorite thing. And what do I mean by short accounts? We have a lot of little clarity meetings throughout the day. So little clarity will avoid big contempt. Little clarity is, hey, really irritating me with the passive aggressive comments about my boots. Either say what you got to say or don't say it, but please don't do that. And then we're having a convo because maybe it's not about the boots. Maybe it is. Who knows? But that's hey, I thought you were going to pick up the kids today. You didn't. That's happened 7 times out of the past 8 days. Is it me or is it you?
Right.
It's a quick clarity check. And I'd rather have 27 of those every day than to not talk about any of it. And it leads to a contemptuous day where I'm now harboring bitterness. Now there's resentment. And if you want to know what resentment is like, just imagine a 2x4 stuck to my chest that's stuck to your chest. That's what contempt will do. No matter what you want to do, there is a barrier between you and that person, and it's deadly.
Yep. I think like having those short accounts helps so much to like just keep it fresh in your relationship.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times though, there's usually one person that just stuffs it down. That's me. You're the, hey, stop doing that or whatever.
Yeah.
So I've had to learn how to voice.
Do your own pointing out.
Yeah, point it out when I'm feeling whatever I'm feeling, irritated or whatever, because I think that's where it starts is if you keep stuffing things down like, oh, if I say something, she's going to be dramatic or, whatever the thing is. And so we just choose to not fight. Like we don't fight about anything. That's not actually great.
Seems funny when people say that. And I don't know how you can function in a healthy relationship
and fighting,
if there's no conflict.
when we say fighting, I'm not talking about like yelling and like just conversation, like confronting things and working things out.
Dialogue, yeah. Yeah, no. Short accounts is one of our weapons in our marriage. And I think we have a really short window to hold stuff against each other, and it's free. So a great way, if you know you have contempt, it's probably going to take a therapist to help you dig it out. It's probably going to help. You're going to need some friends to help you understand how deep it can run. Because once you realize, oh my gosh, I have contempt towards my partner, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be one of those things where it's like, I no longer have contempt towards you. No, you need to figure out what's going on with you. You need to figure out where the expectations have not been met, and you need to get clear on them. And remember, my favorite rule for all couples that we work with, do not hold a grudge against your spouse for something that you cannot articulate.
Yeah.
That to me is, I will look at somebody and say, I got to stop you right there. We talked to an awesome person who was like, I want more intimacy from my spouse. And I said, got it. What do you mean? Well, intimacy. I don't know what you mean. Do you know how many people have a definition of intimacy? So describe for me what you need from this man that he's not giving you. Well, I don't know. Okay, well, you might want to rethink holding that against him, because either there's a you thing going on or you need to work really hard at articulating to hold a man accountable for something he's not even remotely aware of. Even though if you think he should or shouldn't, that's a different convo. You got to be able to articulate it. And I said, give me an example of something that would make you feel like the intimacy. I would like to go out to dinner twice a week. There you go. What else? I don't know. We don't watch movies together. But so your version of intimacy needs to be articulated and honored. But if you're frustrated and you hold that against him and you've never given him a clear picture of what's wrong, that's really not on him in that moment. That's on you. And you have had to grow in this because you don't love to articulate.
Don't point your finger at me.
Well, you don't love to articulate your needs.
No, I don't.
And I've expressed that one of my needs is to hear your need.
I've had to work really hard at that. And that was part of me coming out of being in the relationship that we were before, and my codependent self, like, let's just make it work, keep the peace, because, the kids and him and people and church and all of those things, it was just so much for me to carry. And so I've had to learn to really express if I'm feeling a certain way, or like just the littlest things, like the other day, hey, can you do this for me? Yeah. I just have to be very clear, whereas I never used to do that. I would just bang dishes around in the kitchen or something instead.
Hey, shout out to Ava and Charlie. And Roman, Carl Lentz is the biggest, loudest dish tosser arounder of all time. Like one time we were trying to all watch a movie and you thought you were quietly cleaning. It sounded like a marching band at Mardi Gras. And I turned around and said, what are you doing? why are you banging every dish that loud? And you're like, what?
I don't even realize. My mum used to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Your parents do the same thing. Remember when we stayed there and they would just,
yeah. My dad will empty that dishwasher at 5:45 because it has to happen.
I don't know. It's just one of those things you just don't realize. Anyway, off topic, but I forget what we were talking about.
No, I think it's the premise of sharing your needs.
Yeah, sharing your needs is massive.
But you have to like the person to hear what they need, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But
that's probably the next question.
I really enjoy finding out what you need, and that's a joy. So I think if you're not interested in that, you got to look at a different angle to figure out how to get there.
Well, I think for you, you've done so much changing and growing. Your biggest thing.
Yeah, talk about that. Maybe lean into that a little bit. Like lean into all the growth that I've had.
You have though. Like it's not.
I hope, yeah.
I don't know that it's normal. Like I've talked to other spouses and things, and I'm like, I don't take it for granted the amount of work you do, and we've talked about that before. But the way you are so intentional every day, you wake up with an intent to put me first, to put yourself first, to put your kids first. And I think that is very evident in our relationship and in our marriage. And I think more, if you want to make your marriage work, you have to be intentional. And I think a lot of us just go through the days just robotically, like just living with this other person. They become your roommate instead of your teammate.
Your associate.
Yeah.
Ooh, good little phrase there.
Right? Anyway, yeah.
No, it's good. A roommate instead of a teammate is great. And I think we could probably confidently say, and we did decades of ministry, and then on this chapter really focused on helping people with their relationships. It's almost, if we had 10 situations, 8 out of 10 would be it's the husband not showing up to do the work.
It's really cool because, our life is evidence of a lot of freaking hard work.
Keep in mind, we can't help everybody. If you can't relate to a marriage that has had infidelity, broken trust, multiple kids in different seasons of life, that you need to organize how to do that and how to communicate with each other through hard times and how to manage, 2 self-growth journeys at the same time. If that doesn't connect with people, then we're not for them. But we're really good at helping people. That's just a funny concept to me. I think when you're really desperate for growth, you're less judgmental about the source of the wisdom.
Correct.
Like you're hungry. So if someone were to say, I don't want to listen to that couple because they had a marriage failure. Well, we didn't have a marriage failure. We're still married.
Right.
So you can define it what you want. But for us, we've had a couple different chapters in our lives, and one of them included some serious pain that's made us awesome. So I would listen to us. I do. And I enjoy being in a position to be able to help people to say, hey, now we're not for everybody, but for sure, like if you're a couple trying to get better as you grow, there's tons of wisdom out there, including what we have to say.
Right. And that's how we've learned and grown in our relationship, is talk to other people that have gone through similar stuff. That's how you learn and grow. Yeah.
Shaquille O'Neal recently was asked, like, well, how did you become great? And he said, I stole from everybody. I stole from Michael Jordan. I stole from Kobe. Stole from Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He starts listing all these things, and it's such a beautiful leadership principle in life. Like, that's how we've always grown and how we'll always continue to grow. Like, there might be an area of your life that I deeply respect, and I can learn something from you there. I don't have to subscribe to everything about you, but I'm so hungry to grow that if there is something great, there is something effective in you, golly, I'm going to take that thing and run with it. So, interesting perspective on that. It's beautiful. Good question. Lawsy, this is for you. Lawsy Bell. How long did it take you to feel loved again after infidelity? Because I feel so unloved. So somebody wrote, feels hard, feels sad here, and I get it.
Yeah, because I think it takes it takes time and it takes a lot of work on the person proving the love to you. And you have to have a lot of openness and a lot of therapy, but just being open to the fact that this person could genuinely love me again when you've been hurt and broken, and like the pain of that doesn't just go away in a couple of therapy sessions or a couple of intensives or whatever it is. It is time and it is a lot of work. And that's what I think, that's the thing that when I hear those type of stories, that is, my heart breaks, because I know the work that I had to do and the amount of pain and how exhausting it is all the time. Like on your brain, on your body, on your nervous system, like every part of you. It just takes a lot of work. So I hear what this person is saying, and I can say on this side, 4.5 or whatever years down the track, it is possible.
Yeah.
And it is possible for you to feel loved and feel even more free than you did before. As long as they're doing, like we always say, as long as you're doing the work and he's showing up to do that work, then it will get better.
Can I share what you said about this? And you said to me, I look forward to you showing me that you love me, but I'm learning how to love myself. And so when I saw that question today, it reminded me of you saying that because of how powerful it was. So it's not that you don't want and need me to love you. You love you.
100%. You have to put yourself first.
So even when that woman wrote, I wonder, is there an expectation of something coming that can never fill that? And I think there's something in there to discover, because I want you to love me. Let's just flip it the other way. I want to feel loved by you. But if I don't love myself without that, you can never be enough. And I feel like we be hard at making sure I'm doing my own job over here. And it makes your job so much easier. If I wake up a confident, secure man, it's not hard for you to please me or to make me feel loved. But if I wake up and my internal dialogue is negative and I don't like myself and I'm frustrated with where I'm at in life and I don't know how I feel about me, and then my wife does one little thing, right or wrong, it's too much or too little. And I think that's a really freeing place to be as a man, when you realize I can take care of so much of this stuff on my own. That's a good place to be. So you can be human I remember working that out with Alex because I have such a high, you're so consistent that when you have a bad day, my whole world will end.
Sure did.
Alex said to me, do you think you're good at letting Laura be human? I'm like, absolutely not. I didn't marry her because I thought she'd be a good human. I married her because she's a superpower. She's a superwoman. And it was a great reminder for me to be able to say, I want to be able to have bad days, and you're great when I do. And when you have a bad day, I haven't been great, and I'm getting way better because I like to use it to weaponize as well. I like to count those. I like to remind you, hey, you had 17 bad days last month, so I'm going to take a month off.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a beautiful reminder for me every day. Am I letting Laura be human? Because sometimes my bar for you is just naturally higher than everyone else, and that must be tiring. Does that feel tiring?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because I know how much you give to other people when they're having their human moments. And it's like, bro, you can't like let me have a moment like I'm having a shitty, pissy day. Like I'm just, and I am going to like, I just am irritated or whatever it is. And it's like, I don't get that same freedom sometimes. And that is just an area that we have been working on together, trying to figure that out because, there are moments where you're like, I'm feeling anxious or I'm feeling stressed or whatever it is. But when you have those days, I just let you do whatever because I'm like, this is his stuff to work out. But when I have it, it's just not the same.
I love it. I'm getting better.
You are.
You're easy to love. That's a fact. Okay. How does Carl manage his ADHD without medication to manage his addiction? Interesting question. Great. I can speak to it. You can speak to your view of what that looks like in my life. I think I'll say this first. I don't. I'm at a place in my recovery journey. I don't identify as an addict. Every person who goes through a recovery journey gets to pick what they call themselves. And I have friends I love dearly who will say, I'm an addict, and they're 20 years sober. And I respect that, and I understand the power of it. I heard a preacher recently railing about that. And what's so funny when preachers do that, by the way, is you have no idea what you're talking about. You're on the outside looking in. So a more humble, possibly resourceful tact as a preacher is to go to some recovery meetings, talk to some therapists, have friends that are battling addiction, and the way that you will frame stuff as a preacher will radically change. You're a son of God. You're this, you're that. You can't say you're an addict and they don't understand the logic behind it.
Correct.
So I've said this before. I got to say it again because I keep seeing, well-meaning people preach in error about this. Doesn't make any sense. But when an addict says, I'm an addict, it's not the embrace of a bad identity that a preacher has one level of depth wants to talk about. It is an admission of humility and reverence for what you have walked out of. So if you say you're not an addict in recovery circles, what it can lead towards is an arrogance of safety that leads you to fall again.
Right.
So every time I start a meeting on my Tuesday night, I do it different every time. I say, I'm Carl, I'm an addict. Or I'm Carl, I'm a recovering addict. It's not because that's my identity. My identity is a man that's healed and whole and on a journey. And I realize that I have addictive patterns and tendencies that have cost me a lot. So it's no problem. It doesn't affect my God identity at all to sit in a meeting with my brothers and say, hey, I'm Carl, I'm an addict. I am a recovering addict. That's what I've used for the past 2.5 years because I do know the power of what I allow to come out of my mouth. But all that to say, where I landed with my ADHD medication journey, when I got sober, I had developed a really, really, really rough prescription drug addiction that really, I came to find out, ran a lot of my life. And so I took years and years of no medication, very mild medication. And then I went through a chapter of using Wellbutrin to treat what became chronic depression. And that was a beautiful help for me. No longer am on that part of the journey, but had no problems listening to what my doctor had to say. So Wellbutrin was hugely helpful. I think you've had your journey with antidepressants. And then I tried non-stimulant ADHD medication. because anything on the stimulant side of the tree, that leads to crackhead me. There's a line right here.
And you're talking about Adderall.
Anything that's a stimulant. So
Yeah.
it's very easy to find out what a stimulant is. And that's not the case for everybody. There are many cases of stimulants working really well for people. I just know for me, what a stimulant did was allow me to aid and abet a lot of things I wasn't dealing with. And I do have severe ADHD. It's what makes me awesome. I love it. I love that part of me. Learned how to embrace it. And it demands extra care sometimes. So I'm in constant contact with my psychiatrist and my psychologist as I talk about my medication journey. And so now I take non-stimulant ADHD medications, very mild, because as it turns out, you can heal your brain.
Correct.
So there might be something to that old Dr. Amen guy, or some of these people that say if what you put into your body and the amount of rest you give yourself, maybe there's some truth to that stuff actually healing your brain. So I have felt the effects of a healthier brain pattern. Some of my neurological pathways have definitely shifted, which is an amazing miracle. But I would just say to anybody asking questions about medication, get the weird religion out of it. If there is some of that floating around, do whatever you need to do to get help with consultation. But for me, my choices, I'm very, very, very slow to look over to the stimulant side of the tree to honor some of the stuff we've been through. So great question. That's the truth. That's all. There's nothing fancier than that. But I have no problem telling people about my medication journey. Those are good questions. We'll ask people to keep sending these in. There's one we're going to do this whole episode on 3 things we keep hearing about marriage that we want to talk about. And I'm not going to do that today because I really enjoyed this. I think powerful thought you and I both love. And we'll leave our lights on, bulbs with this. I heard somebody say this about kind of in general in life, but it's really good for marriage and relationships. This person said, "You're only as good as your worst bad." And I heard it, I wrote it down. I said, let me think about that. And it's really, really true for us. And what that phrase means to me, you're only as good as your worst bad. We typically like to measure how we're doing by how well we're doing.
Right. If someone asks, how you doing?
We're doing really good. Like we had a good week. Like, so you measure how healthy you are by your high. Mm-hmm. It might be more effective and more revealing to start measuring your growth by your low. And if that's true, and I believe it is for me, I'm able to sit here today and go, my gosh, I'm growing wildly in some areas because my bad is so much better than my old bad. Mm-hmm. So worst
Give
bad.
some examples.
An example would be if you don't fight a lot with your spouse, but when you do, you throw things. There's hysterical yelling. It's almost like not violence, but it is so combative and it's a huge blow up. That to me is more indicative of how you're doing as a couple than how you are on your summer vacation on date night.
Right.
Date night is not, to me, a measure of how we're doing. That's a product of something that we've tried to create. But you're bad. That reveals your growth. And so my goal is always to lift that level of bad. So
that's good.
I used to hold a grudge for 2 weeks. Hey, I only hold it for a week now. Like I used to curse every time I got cut off in the car. Now I just use my fingers to do the talking. Hey, it's a pattern. It's a journey. Get off my back. It's like there's ways to gauge it. But we found this out in real time. We had a week of like successive, really bad disappointments, crushing. Mm-hmm. And my overriding thing on the middle of this week of disappointment was I said, Laura, I got something important to tell you. She's like, what now? I was like, I'm doing awesome.
Made me
and
so
it
mad.
Made you so mad. I said, no, I'm going to get to all the stuff, but my nervous system has not wavered. And I feel completely encouraged, and it's hard. And this is my bad. So my bad is like I've had to really reframe today 50 times, and I've had to really lean on some friends. But that's my new bad in that area. Lord Jesus, am I grateful? And now I measure everything by that. And yours was, so we went through a disappointing week, and you didn't like the way you responded.
No, I was very aware of how terrible I responded.
That's a harsh judgment.
Not terrible. I just realized that I still have some work to do.
Yeah.
But it was also a lot of, I think, PTSD from
absolutely.
Because without saying what the situation was necessarily, but just a lot of things were out of our control. And it took me back to when our world blew up, when I first found out about the infidelity and all of that, and we lost our jobs and we didn't know where we were going to live. We didn't know what we were going to do.
Yeah.
My body went into that mode again, and I was shaky.
Yeah.
I was like, my nervous system was so out of whack.
Yeah.
And I wasn't shocked because I just was in it.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize I was in it the way I was until you were like, why are you feeling so shaky? And your response to me was so safe that again, PTSD of what it would have been 4 years ago, 5 years ago, I didn't realize that I still have some work to do in this area, some of these areas of like when things are out of control, out of my control, and things aren't going my way or like things aren't as smooth as I would like, my body went into exactly, I feel unsafe. I feel like, what are we going to do? Where are we going to go? What's going to happen? And I completely lost it.
What we found was, is this response appropriate for the situation? The answer was no, which means we got some good work to do for you because, hey, we're good. Like, this is a disappointment, but it sparked so much in you. Hey, let's look in there because you deserve better than that. And so it was cool for me to be able to go, hey, this is all going to work out. It's fine. You know, it sucks. We had a big dream to do something, and now it's a little bit delayed. And I look over at you, and I was like, oh yeah, let's pinpoint this. It shows you who you are in those tight moments. Shows you where you're at relationally. Like, and we've seen it with our kids. Like, there have been times in our marriage where we fought in front of our kids. And it's like, and there's times now we can look at each other, body language, eyes, and know we're all right. Because I'm going to let this ride till I talk to you later. Because I completely disagree with what advice you just gave our son. And we shall talk later. But that is our new bad, as opposed to before confronting each other in front of all that stuff kind of just plays on each other. So maybe I think my submission to the people that watch the show, just check your bad. How bad is your bad? And if you can lift that level, it's amazing what it does to all the other levels in your life. It like lifts every other ceiling. So now I'm like, how bad is my bad when I play basketball? How bad is my bad when I snap at Roman? How bad is my bad when I don't hear what I want? That one's a huge one for me. And because for a while it didn't matter how healthy I thought I was. If I heard something that I felt was attacking or unjust, right away, my nervous system's going, I am raging.
Right.
Now I can hear something that I don't want to hear. I can even hear something that feels like it's directed to me and go, I'm not going to take that personal. That's never been my case, never been my story. So check out your bad. How bad is your bad? Don't talk to me about how good your good is. We got some good goods. How bad is your bad? We're going to pick this up again as soon as you can fit it in on your books. But thank you. We love y'all. And lights on. /lights off. We'll see you soon. I love you.
Love you.